Good evening. I call this meeting of August 27th, 2020 to order at 7 o'clock. This regular board meeting for Thursday, August 27th, 2020 will be conducted completely online. The Governor's Executive Order N-25-20 relaxes the Brown Act requirement for holding public meetings via teleconference. Per normal practice, this meeting will be recorded, live streamed, and televised. Members of the public may attend via the public viewing link provided below. Public viewing link will be provided via TV 28 on cable TV or by streaming from TV 28 at www.tv30.org. Updated public comments changes due to COVID-19. Per normal practice, the meeting will be live streamed and available at tv30.org for viewing and also broadcast live on Comcast TV, channel 28, beginning at 7 p.m. Online speaker slips will be available, and the public will be able to call in using a computer or smartphone via a link which will be provided following submission of a speaker slip. A telephonic option will also be available. Once connected, the public speaker will be placed in an online waiting room. While in the waiting room, the public speaker should watch or listen to the meeting via the outlets above, as they will not see or hear the meeting while they are connected and waiting to speak. When the agenda item upon which the individual would like to comment is addressed, the speaker will be announced in the meeting as to when it is his or her time to speak to the school board or the board of trustees. The speaker will then be moved to the meeting for comment. TV 30 is allowing only audio at this time, adding a full screen public comment when the speaker is talking. Yellow comment form for items only on this agenda. Individual speakers shall be allowed no more than 2 minutes to address the board on this item for the sake of time. In an effort to make our board meetings more accessible to our community, we wanted to share new processes for assessing closed captioning and providing input through public comment. Assessing closed captioning for board meetings. Visit the board agenda you would like to access closed captioning for. It's linked to all meetings. Fill out the closed captioning request form. We will follow up via email with a link to access the board meeting via Zoom. Ensure that you have the most current version of Zoom installed on your computer or mobile device. Click on the Zoom meeting link prior to the start of the meeting. Please use your full name when entering. You will initially be placed in a waiting room. Once you have been admitted into the meeting, you will be able to view the meeting with closed captions by clicking on the CC button on the bottom of your Zoom window. Please use this option only if you require closed caption. At this time, I would like to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'd like to introduce our cabinet members and board of trustees, and I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'll change up the introductions a little bit. First, I would like to introduce Roseanne Pryor, Administrative Assistant to Dr. Hagelin, our Superintendent. This is Roseanne's last board meeting as she retires September 2nd. On behalf of the board, I would like to thank Roseanne for your more than 10 years of service to our community, students, and the six superintendents you have guided. Enjoy your retirement and good luck in your move to New Mexico to be with your family. We will surely miss you. And I know the rest of the board and Dr. Hagelin and Dr. Woodward also wanted to say a few words. The board?
Hey, Roseanne, this is Mark. Hey, yeah, Steve said it really well. I mean, since I've been on the board for 6 years, you've been the single thread that's gone through everything, and I just cannot say. I mean, the grace that you have displayed through all the things that have gone on has been, actually inspiring to me. And just really appreciate all your help. You're the friendliest person I know and the most competent person I know. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go next. Roseanne, this is Valerie. It has been just an absolute pleasure getting to know you, working with you these past 10 years. I just really want to thank you for everything you've done and every way you supported the board. It's just, you've done an amazing job, and your dedication to PUSD is really admirable. I'm really, really going to miss you. So I hope you'll I hope you'll stay in touch with all of us. But best of luck to you in your retirement, and I hope you enjoy the time with your family and you relax and you have fun. So thank you again, and we're going to miss you.
Roseanne, it's Joan. I can't believe 10 years has gone by since we first welcomed you into PUSD family. Thank you so much for always taking care of us as a board and making sure that everything is set up the way it needs to be set up, and we're able to do the work that we have to do because we know that you're behind us, making sure that we do everything right. So I really want to thank you, and good luck so much with your family. It's one of those things now that we're all facing. The challenges cause us to think about what's most important to us, and your grandson and your mom and all of your family getting together. I know that they're going to be so happy to have you there too. So best of luck, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, Roseanne. Okay, it has been an awesome 10 years. And the thing that stands out for me most is you getting everybody's food preferences down. Pat, remember those couple of years when everybody had a dietary issue?
I do.
I think like 10 people. I don't even know why you just didn't serve us cracker and water, because it would have been a lot easier. But it's been a lot of fun. We've been through a lot together, and you just better stay in touch. And you're going to have so much fun with all you and your fam all hanging out together after such a long time not being together. So yeah, best of luck. Keep in touch.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dave?
I wish other people could unmute you. That would be so polite. I almost always forget. So I'm going to start over, Roseanne. You have been an invaluable member of our team. I mean, you've been at nearly every board meeting for almost a decade. I mean, that's amazing. I appreciate your selfless contributions to the district, as you've dedicated countless hours to support our team and this board. It really has been my pleasure to work and serve alongside of you. Our students, our staff, our schools, and our community are better because of the work that you've done over time. I wish you all the best in your retirement. I want you to have amazing adventures with Landon, the rest of your family. But you got that special little boy in your life, and I'm just so pleased that you're going to get this time to spend with him. We're going to miss you, but I trust that you'll be nearby and engaged with us as we go forward. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, Roseanne.
Thank you.
Dr. Woodward?
Thank you so much. Roseanne Pryor, you just welcomed me so sweetly when I came on board, and you have been a daily source of encouragement and guidance, and helping me understand the lay of the land up here in Pleasanton. And I will be forever thankful for you, and I will absolutely miss you and your laughter. I know you're going to have a great time in retirement.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else on the dais would like to say anything?
I would. Roseanne, this is Julio Hernandez, Assistant Soup of HR. I really appreciate, Roseanne, all the things that you do behind the scenes that the community and staff don't really realize, that without that support and that guidance and that person that you bring to everything that you do, which is just kindness, really is appreciated. So great time in your retirement. Please stay in touch. And I just wanted to echo again, there's a lot of things that Roseanne does for this organization that people don't really realize that really keep this organization functioning. So that has been greatly appreciated by me and others. Roseanne, thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick thing from me, Roseanne. You welcomed me about 3 years ago with open arms, and I just really always appreciate your smile when I come down from where I sit way up here, a couple of rows up in the facility here, and I come down near the boardroom and you're there, and you're always so welcoming. I really do appreciate that. You know, good or bad, the days that come and go, you're always just have that bright smile. So that's very inspiring for me. So thank you. I wish you the best. I know you love that grandchild of yours, so you're going to have a blast. So I just want to thank you, Roseanne.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yep, and from the business services, Roseanne, you are a joy every day. I walk down the hall and Tammy and you are smiling. We're going to really miss that. And you're often the last one to leave, and that is, you know, yeah, you beat a lot of people, but you're often the last one to leave. We will truly miss you. You have really worked hard and deserve this time with your family.
Thank you.
Okay. Roseanne, would you like to say a few words?
I would. Thank you. Well, first of all, I just want to thank the organization for giving me the opportunity to work here. Yes, I can't believe myself that a decade has gone by. However, in a blink, that's what life does to you. And I just want to also thank each and every one of you that spoke tonight and shared your kind words with me. It's really greatly appreciated. It's a bittersweet time for me. You know, I enjoy what I do. I enjoy serving the students, the staff, the parents, and the community. And, you know, I have met a lot of great people, a lot of great students. We have a great core of students there. I mean, it's unbelievable just how smart, and I'm going to miss that. I don't really go out to the schools, but, you know, I get to see them at the board meetings and our student board members. And I've heard about Pleasanton for, you know, 20 years, and I never thought I'd be working here. So it's been my complete and awesome privilege to work for you as an organization. I thank the board, I thank Dr. Haglin, executive cabinet, staff, and everyone that I come in involved in on a daily basis, whether it's, you know, at my counter, through text, phone, email. I know we're in a remote learning, so there's going to be a lot of people that I will not be able to say bye to, and that saddens me. But I'm hoping that, you know, I will be able to see them one day soon. But again, I just want to thank you for everything that you guys do, all our teachers, our staff, everybody that works very hard every single day diligently to ensure that our students are first. Because like Michelle Verkeilen always says, Pleasanton deserves the best. And yeah, thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Roseanne. Okay, moving on with our introductions. First, we have Julio Hernandez, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. Ahmad Shiko Islami, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. Ed Dialazo, Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services. Dr. Janelle Woodward, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. Trustee Mark Miller. Trustee Joan Larson. Trustee Valerie Arkin. Board Vice President Jamie Yee. On Board President Steve Maher. Of course, Superintendent David Haglin. Patrick Gannon, Coordinator of Communications and Community Engagement. Roseanne, which is your night. Lanita Villasenor, Administrative Assistant to the Business Services Division, who will be helping us during this transition. So thank you, Lanita. Okay, moving on to action of closed session. I'd like to take item 4.1, student discipline, readmission recommendation, case number 2019-2020.2008. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval of 4.1.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay. Trustee Arkin?
Aye.
Trustee Yee?
Aye.
Trustee Larson,
Aye.
Trustee Miller,
Aye.
and Trustee Maher, aye. It carries 5-0 with the readmission recommendation. Okay, now report on action taken in closed session. Item 2.1.1, in a unanimous decision, the board voted to approve the ratification of appointment of Si Wing Yi Jr. as the Coordinator 1, Innovation and Distance Learning. And is he here?
Hi, everyone.
There he is.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to collaborating with my colleagues within the district, and I'm so excited to continue to serve our students and school community in my new role. Thank you.
Good. Item 2.1.2, in an unanimous decision, voted to approve the appointment of Melanie Harris as the Vice Principal at Amador Valley High School.
Hi.
Here? There she is.
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
Well, I'm just absolutely ecstatic to be here and to be part of this Pleasanton community and team. And I cannot wait to work with my Amador Valley colleagues and to work with our Amador Valley students. Go Dons.
Item number 2.1.3, again, unanimous decision to approve the appointment of Yigan Peshenko as Coordinator 1 of Technology. Please pronounce your name for me correctly. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Yevgen Shechenko.
That was close.
Yeah, very close. Unusual, actually. Yeah, and I'm so happy to become part of IT department of Pleasanton Unified School District as a new technology coordinator. And I believe I can apply my knowledges and skills and my experience will be useful for Pleasanton Public Schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Item 2.4, closed session item 2.4, the board voted 5-0 with the motion made by Trustee Larson and seconded by Trustee Arkin to approve a compromise and release agreement for internal case number SCD 102.20.21 for the amount not to exceed $74,999. That concludes all the action taken in closed session. I'd like to now move to the approval of the agenda, and we're going to pull item 12.2, CSEA MOU. So do we have a motion to accept the agenda?
I'll move approval of the agenda with the elimination of 12.2.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Trustee Yee?
Aye.
Trustee Arkin?
Aye.
Trustee Larson?
Aye.
Trustee Miller?
Aye.
And Trustee Maher? Aye. So the agenda is approved. Okay, now we have our association recognitions and introduction. Dr. Hagelin.
Mute, disengaged. All right, President Maher, thank you so much. The first recognition we have tonight, we're actually fortunate to have a number of organizations in our community that support our students, families, and staff as we prepare for the beginning of every school year. Now, more than ever, it really has taken a village to wrap our arms, collective arms around the school community to support the individuals within Pleasanton. And Pleasanton is an incredible village. We are proud to acknowledge a number of organizations and agencies that stepped up over the summer to help provide additional services and resources to our families and staff. On the final day of our summer meal service, families in need were able to pick up meals, but also had the opportunity to receive a variety of other items donated by our community partners. First, we'd like to acknowledge the supply bank, represented virtually tonight by Erica Sweating, for the donation of diapers and wipes for families of our youngest learners. Next, we want to acknowledge First Five of Alameda County, who donated 120 backpacks filled with learning materials for our pre-K students. Thank you to Brandon Young who worked with us to provide these supplies to help our pre-K students have a great start to the school year. And a longtime supporter of our district, the National Charity League, who donated nearly 100 backpacks, as well as over 1,000 school and sanitary supply items ranging from Kleenex to graphing calculators. A huge thank you to Brenda Nosp and Kate Dugan from the National Charity League for their generosity and their support. Finally, I want to extend gratitude to an incredible group of young men from our local Boy Scout Troop 941, as well as Hart Middle and Amador Valley High School. Instead of sitting back this summer, this team got together to use their engineering skills to produce over 8,000 3D printed face shields for healthcare workers and educators. I had the pleasure of meeting these young men before the start of the year to accept a donation of 1,800 face shields for use by our staff. So thank you to the Boy Scouts of Troop 941, as well as our Hart and Amador students for this donation to help keep our staff who are returning to work. We want to keep them safe as we move into the new school year together. So I'd like to give a bit of time for those various honorees to have an opportunity to say a quick few words.
Yeah, thank you so much for the recognition. We obviously could not serve these families without your partnership. So once again, thank you so much for the recognition, and we look forward to continuing the partnership with Pleasanton Unified School District.
Thank you.
Well, I'll speak from the National Charity League. The National Charity League is, the Pleasanton chapter is made up of over 300 members, mothers and daughters, age 7th grade through 12th grade. And we love supporting PUSD along with many other nonprofits and charities in Pleasanton. And we look forward to working with you for many future projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. How about you, Kai? Are you ready to go?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Haglund and everybody else. We were really excited to be able to support PUSD and donate the face shields. We've actually been going since early April, and at this point we've done almost 9,500 face shields. In total, there's been 21 people who have helped print, and we have the main 7 here. Hey guys.
A serial Zoom session. That's awesome.
Yeah, so these are all of the guys who have helped out regularly through this entire project. And we've actually had 70 people donate and support the project as well. We're going to be continuing as well until there's no more demand for PPE. But we're excited to be working with PUSD and all of the other organizations across the country.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else not get a chance from one of the groups to speak up?
Brandon.
Brandon Young unfortunately had to head out. He had his 2 little girls. It was dinner time. So.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate y'all coming, and we also appreciate everything that you do. So thank you, my sincere appreciation for all of your efforts.
On behalf of the board, likewise. Number 7, associations. Representative.
Wait, we have additional recognitions tonight that Ed and Janelle are going to carry forward.
Oh, okay. Excuse me.
Good evening, President Powell, members of the board, Superintendent Haglund, and Pleasanton community. It is my pleasure this evening to recognize the elementary intervention specialists. These wonderful, wonderful, wonderful specialists have supported our students and staff with the RTI process, and they have provided direct services to our students, especially to our students who are at risk and we would say with promise and need a little bit of extra support. They've worked in teams with classroom teachers and administrators to support students' academic needs, and they have been highly instrumental in connecting with students during the spring semester, in which we were on a quick shift to distance learning. And they very much assisted these students in being engaged with the learning process. The intervention specialists have been proactive. When they learned that we were going to remote instruction, the team immediately began working on district literacy assessments so that we could give these assessments in a remote environment and be able to monitor the progress of our students and intervene in a timely manner. And they created a game board as professional development to help teachers understand how to give these remote assessments. Each of them have received advanced training in literacy and response to intervention framework, and each of them always go above and beyond. They are an essential member of each of their staff. They're positive, and student success is their number one priority. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our intervention specialists, and I hope that I say your names all correctly. I was practicing before the board meeting. Andrea Karstensen, Amanda Sirachi, Andrea Withers, Erica Rich, Julie Ripplinger, Kim Rittaler, Lisa Ayambule, Nikki Seberg, and Sharon Gitchell. So if any of you or all of you would like to say a quick word, we welcome you to do so. Thank you for all of your service to our students.
Thank you, Dr. Woodward. We just want to say thank you for the opportunity to provide support to all of our educators out there to help them better understand their students. And we want to say a special shout out to all of our teachers out there who are working diligently trying to learn who their students are and provide the best plan for instruction for them. And a big shout out goes to them for their flexibility and their grace in this time, especially in this beginning of the year. So thank you.
So unless we have anybody else who would like to speak, I'd like to just pass it now to Assistant Superintendent Ed Dialazzo.
Thank you, Dr. Woodward, President Maher, Superintendent Haglund, Board of Trustees, Executive Cabinet, and community. Thank you for this privilege tonight to recognize some really awesome folks from the Student Support Services Division. So we have two groups that I want to recognize, and I will read some notes that we put together here for our first group. So from the Student Services Department, our district nurses were an integral part of creating our Health and Safety Professional Development Day presentation and procedures for the start of the school year. Throughout the summer, the nurses participated in a subcommittee to stay up to date on the guidance being issued by various federal, state, and local agencies, including Center for Disease Control, the CDC, the California Department of Public Health, the California Department of Education, the California School Nurses Association, and the Alameda County Public Health Department, just to name a few. Their professionalism and expertise from our nurses has truly been an asset to the district, and we greatly appreciate their ongoing collaboration and efforts. So I want to take this opportunity to recognize our district nurses. So I want to thank Susan Hahn, Marianne Lindahl, and Pam Shinnick. So I know Susan has volunteered to say a couple of words.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for this recognition. You know, in this global pandemic, you know, as nurses, we just absolutely feel this is our duty and privilege, you know, to work with the district to develop health and safety plans, just to make sure that our students and staff are safe when we are going back to in-person learning. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank Kathleen Reeve, the Director of Student Services, and Ed Dialazzo for your unwavering support. If you've been following all these COVID headlines, you probably noticed that, you know, things change frequently, sometimes daily, to stay you know, up to date with all the guidances. It's pretty tough. So, you know, just want to take this opportunity to thank them for their support. And, our health assistant are working hard as well. So anyways, really appreciate this recognition. And thank you, Dr. Hagelin and the board for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. It's definitely been a team effort on all parts. So appreciate your leadership and guidance along with the other district nurses. All right, from the Special Education Department, we had several members of the department create professional development opportunities for both certificated and classified staff way back in the beginning of August, many, many, many weeks ago. So their ongoing dedication, hard work, and expertise helped to create training modules in our SPED-U format and assisted in preparing our special education staff for start of school year. So I really want to appreciate several people tonight, and a big thank you goes out to our staff members from the special ed department. So tonight with us are Cynthia Bonner, Joycelyn Evans, Jessica Mitchell, Joelle McCarthy, and Vanessa Knight. So I know Joelle has a couple of words.
Hi all. On behalf of my colleagues in the special education department, I just wanted to tell you all how beyond grateful we are for this recognition. And we are honored to work amongst so many incredible professionals that are like-minded and focused on the work to support our students. We have so much more that we want to share with you all. So any opportunity that we have to prepare and support you through PD, we are over the moon with it and looking for more opportunities in the future to support you. So thank you again.
Thank you, Joelle. Okay, I'm going to turn it over now to our Director of Adult and Career Education, Mr. Amos Nugent.
Thank you, Mr. Dialazo. I really appreciate that. Greetings, trustees, executive cabinet, and everyone in attendance on tonight. I have the wonderful privilege and honor of presenting to you all our department chair for ESL, English as a Second Language Department in the adult school for the Adult and Career Education Department. Ms. Talaya Pettit is truly a leader who from the very beginning saw an opportunity to really help support the program and ensure its continuity as we began the school year. And she seized that moment and helped both me and the program in several ways that I cannot enumerate, but I will call out just a few. From her thoughtfulness, her unwavering hard work and commitment to some of our most at-promise learners, her initiative, her ability to be able to help support us in onboarding our re-enrollment efforts and transition to full distance learning, our ability to set schedules for our students with the school year starting, and so much more, even serving as the co-chair for English as a Second Language with the Mid-Atlantic Consortium. She really helped to do a lot of the things as we were working to fill our assistant director position. And I just really wanted to recognize her efforts in helping to ensure that we have a thriving program that is able to continue to do excellent things. So I present to you all Ms. Talaya Pettit, our department chair for our English as a Second Language program in the adult school.
Good evening, everyone. Amos, thank you. And I really would like to accept this recognition on behalf of adult ed in general. Everyone in our department has been working so hard. And I really couldn't have done this if all the teachers weren't putting in extra effort to sort of put this ship together as we sail it. And I know teachers throughout the whole district are doing that. So we feel part of a team that is working to serve students despite a lot of challenges. And Amos is new in PUSD and has absolutely given us an example to follow. And we really appreciate his leadership in this time. So I would like to sort of make it a shared recognition, if that's a thing.
Definitely a great thing. I could definitely say the same. I appreciate you recognizing the department.
Thank you. Okay, any more recognitions, Dr. Hagelin?
Nope, we got them all.
We got them all. Okay, great to have this many great people.
Yep.
And now it's time for the associations. Representatives from the associations may address the board. And at first I'd like to introduce APT President, Michelle Verkeilen.
Good evening, President Maher, members of the board, Dr. Haglund, members of the cabinet, and our community. I am Michelle Verkeilen, President of the Association of Pleasanton Teachers. As a first order of business, APT wants to offer congratulations to Ms. Roseanne. A huge shout out to you, your mad organizational and efficiency skills, your friendly smiles will be sorely missed. Enjoy every minute in your new non-work adventures. We cannot thank our parent community enough for the support and heart they are putting out to our teachers and educators. The understanding and appreciations you are sending in emails, across social media, truly does lift the spirits of your children's classroom teachers and service providers. They are working so many more hours throughout the week to do right by our students. What had become automatic routines for them in the in-person classroom now takes 10 times the amount of time. Something as simple as evaluating a math page done with first graders that used to take 5 minutes to flip through and see who had the concept and who needed an extra go at it now takes an hour with all the uploading, downloading, emailing to ask them to send a clearer photo of the assignment, clicking through. We think technology streamlines things and makes things happen faster. What we're finding is that's not necessarily the case. So thank you for your understanding, your support, and being a partner in your child's education in this different reality. Adjustments are constantly having to be made with the technology challenges over which we have no control. We continue to adapt and make backup plans so that we can reach our students. What we know to work in an in-person learning environment doesn't necessarily translate neatly into our new virtual world. So it is important to be open to rethinking how what we normally do gets done, whether that is standardized or informal assessments, or assigning and providing feedback on student work. Flexibility and alternative thinking are musts. Teaching in person and teaching virtually require very different types of planning for delivery of instruction. The California Department of Education's website links to resources that indicate it is important to understand that taking teaching and learning online involves more than just uploading files and video links to a learning management system. Teaching remotely requires a different approach. It is a skill to be learned. The site goes on to advise teachers to be careful with your time. Teaching online can be very time-consuming. Our educators can certainly attest to this. The important thing is that we maintain laser focus on our priority of serving and teaching our students. That is number one. The rest is developing and will come. There are so many things that are exciting and engaging that are coming from this that we will carry back into our in-person teaching when we make a safe return. Another issue that has become heightened during this time is communication. Because we lack the daily in-person interaction, we feel more out of touch, when in reality, we are probably engaging in more communication than is typical. It is just in a slightly different format. Figuring out the right amount of communication is challenging. What is too much? What is too little? What's the optimal time of delivery? We are all working hard to find that just right amount. We love being back with our students. They make it all worth it, and we and they are getting better and better at our new mode of instructional delivery each and every day. We send out thoughts for the safety, health, and well-being of all of our students, families, and community, because as you know, Pleasanton students deserve the best. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Next, I'd like to call on CSEA President Laura Martinez.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, I had some technical challenges this evening, so I've had to put my speech together a couple of times. So here we go. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Haglund, Cabinet, and members of the community. CSEA would also like to send out congratulations to Roseanne as she embarks on her journey of retirement and well-deserved break. You will be missed. Thank you for your years of service for PUSD. A little over 2 weeks of remote learning, and I think we're all feeling it. For some, it's falling into place. For some, it's rising up to the tech challenges. For some, it's Zoom fatigue.
For all of us, it's new territory that we are doing our best to navigate. It can also be very isolating to work remotely, so these are real challenges we all face. This is our reality right now, and we need to do our best to support each other and continue to rise up to the challenge. This is a chance to be a part of the solution and shine. I want to take a moment to recognize some of our staff here at PUSD. We have so many people invested in educating our students and doing their best to provide the tools for the staff to be successful in this new way of teaching. Thank you to PUSD Ed Group that has put together countless webinars to stretch and teach our employees, classified and certificated in technology. They have also availed themselves with office hours to assist those with tech hiccups and more. I personally have reached out a time or two to get guidance and so appreciate that they are willing and happy to help me. We may not get everything right, but we are invested and we continue to offer creative and new ideas to keep improving. I want to thank our classified staff that are attending Zoom after Zoom as they assist our most vulnerable students. I want to thank our certificated staff as they continue to make learning accessible for all of our students. I also want to recognize our parents who make sure our students are ready for school each and every day. Thank you. We continue to have over 40% of our classified staff continue to report to work, and they are much appreciated for all the hard work they put in each day. They show up ready to work, and it is imperative our members feel safe. We continue to work through our needs for personal protective equipment and continue to implement protocols that are clear and enforced. CSEA believes that we have a shared interest with the board and the district in safeguarding employees, students, and the community. There's still much work ahead of us. Let's keep our lines of communication open, expectations clear, and continue to support one another. We are fortunate to have an incredible team of classified professionals fully committed to working as a team with certificated staff, management to support our students. This school year, while different and ever-changing, if we all work together, we can continue to give our students the best. I know we will do our part to serve our students, community, and PUSD. Stay well, and thank you for your time. Good evening.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Okay, at this time, we have comments from the audience. Please note there's public comment changes due to COVID. TV 30 is allowing only audio at this time, adding a full screen public comment when the speaker is talking. Individual speakers shall be allowed no more than 2 minutes to address the board on this item for the sake of time. Blue comment forms are not listed on the agenda. Patrick, do we have any?
Yes, yes, President Maher, we have 2 public comments this evening. The first is from Kelly Mikashi, and then the second and final is from Chong Wang.
Okay.
So Kelly, if you're with us, go ahead. You've got 2 minutes.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Kelly Mikashi, a PUSD board candidate and a parent of 3 children in the district. I wanted to take just a moment to thank Dr. Haglund, the PUSD district leadership, the PUSD school board trustees, the PUSD cabinet, and any other essential district personnel, as well as teachers who've been working tirelessly to kick off the school year during this challenging time. I have seen firsthand the instant communication that my children have received from their teachers when dealing with tech issues. Flexibility is paramount, and I can see it has been executed at many different levels that will help ease the anxiety for our children when such issues arise. I applaud the school board working collaboratively with the Association of Pleasanton. In the recent MOU, memorandum of understanding that has resulted in now future weekly professional development for our teachers, which they will definitely benefit from, as well as the recent community meeting hosted by the special education department for our parents. Just happened yesterday. It is these types of collaborative efforts with the district, our teachers, our parents, our community, and with our children that will help us guide us during this pandemic. It is listed on the PUSD website and also mentioned on social media frequently from our parents and teachers. We are all in this together. And this is true, but I also think it's equally important to state it publicly to those key leaders who are instrumental in making these things happen. Thank you very much. Kelly McCaughey.
Thank you. Okay, Chung?
Hello?
Okay, Patrick, start the timer over. There you go.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Chong Wang. I'm running for PUSD School Board this year. As we are currently on a remote learning mode, I am wondering if there is anything that we may do to help the students get connected socially. Students' mental health is very important, especially during such special period. Most of the students are isolated at home. The school club's activity usually involve a limited number of students. How do we reach all students in the district? Can we organize a buddy program, for example, to connect the students with each other? The district school PTAs and the PPIE may have the plan. It would be great to share the idea with the parents. The parents would be also able to volunteer and help organize such programs, including myself. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. No more comments, Patrick?
That is it for this evening, President Maher.
Okay. At this time, item number 9, our student board member report. I'd like to introduce Rachel Zhang from Amarillo Valley High School, and she's one of our new student school board members. Rachel, are you here?
I'm here.
All right. Do you have a report for us?
I do.
All right. I knew you would.
Yes. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Haglund, and members of the community. Amador Valley has adjusted to its 3rd week back at school via remote learning, hosting what would be time in the classroom on platforms like Zoom and Google Meets. Our alternating schedule with classes rotating every other day has proved to be very effective in providing students with enough stamina to actively engage in their courses without feeling overwhelmed. Our success has been in large part thanks to our counseling and administrative teams, who have worked tirelessly to orchestrate a smooth transition for both students and teachers. Their efforts have included selective staff answering phones in the office, distributing instructional materials to the entire student body over the past few days, and processing 800 schedule change requests. The schedule change window did close last Friday, but the office is still diligently working to see through some of those requests. The administration is also closely working with and communicating with our teachers to create a uniform approach to their classes so that students feel a sense of consistency and develop a rhythm throughout their day and simulate the spirit of the classroom without, of course, the physical environment. Our administration has presented training modules to teachers of how to effectively use Zoom and problem solve when faced with technical difficulties on the spot. Despite our modified circumstances, our teachers have continued their intra-department collaboration with the use of time before school on Wednesdays, alternating between professional development and staff collaboration. One of the main focuses of such collaboration has been forming a uniform grading scale between classes, regardless of what teacher you have. On another note, our leadership team has reached out to other schools' leadership programs to exchange ideas on how to run school-wide events, such as the Back to School Rally, which is normally held within the first 2 weeks of school. But they're in the midst of determining the best way to build and maintain the same school camaraderie and solidarity we would normally have just through modified means. Our band held an optional band camp for students over the summer following Alameda County health guidelines. They weren't allowed to play their instruments, but they were still able to gather so that students were not completely cut off from their bandmates. Our LINK team, which works to connect students across grades, hosted sessions for our freshman orientation, where upperclassmen equipped freshmen with helpful advice to ease them into an unconventional year. Additionally, our virtual back to school night is being held tonight from 7 to 8 and is linked on our website. For Back to School Night, Amador will launch a series of videos from the administration, teachers, and counselors for parents and students. We also just announced this morning that our access schedule for Wednesdays has changed. We're moving access from 10:40 a.m. to 9:45 a.m. and adding an extra remote learning activities period for students right before lunch. And this schedule change will be effective starting Wednesday, September 2nd, next week. Our clubs and teams and administration have been making great use of ABTV, so I'd like to commend journalism for their dedication and reliability as our new mainstream news channel. And in other news, our college counselors have started offering virtual alternatives to the typical college fairs that we host for juniors and seniors. So I think tonight there's a Coalition for College virtual college fair that took place tonight, and it also took place yesterday. And then next week, UC Campus Week from September 14th through 17th. And then lastly, with an athletics update, evidently all fall and winter sports have been postponed. E-balls and CIF have been pushed back. Their potential start dates, I think, for fall have been pushed back into winter sports into the spring. So potential sports season schedules can be found on the E-balls website. And to finish, I'd like to share a saying that our school has embraced as our mantra heading into remote learning, which our principal, Mr. Butterfield, has shared with me, which is start slow to go fast. We started instruction patiently, receptive to trial and error so that we can set ourselves up for success for the rest of the year, whatever that may look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Hagelin, your report.
Rachel, that was an incredible report. Thank you so much for those encouraging words for all of us and acknowledging the work that everybody, including our students and teachers, are doing together. So thank you for stating it so well. I want to start this evening by extending my thoughts and prayers to all of the families and individuals affected by the wildfires currently being fought by firefighters from across the state and even beyond. We as a community are eternally grateful for your sacrifice and service, along with the greater circle of first responders who step into the gap when help is needed. While we may have had to adjust locally to poor air quality, we've been fortunate to avoid some of the devastating effects these fires have had on families across the state, including some of our own extended families. Please keep all of them in your thoughts and prayers during this time. I'd like to thank our partners at the City of Pleasanton for their collaboration over the weekend as we prepared for a potential evacuation of residents in Eastern Pleasanton. I also want to thank our Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services, Mr. Ed Dialazzo, and his team for their efforts throughout the wildfire season. Frankly, your efforts all the time whenever there's an issue that we have to wrestle with. While I appreciate everything that you do, Ed, I certainly wish you were not so busy. And hopefully we'll return to a better sense of normal in the weeks to come. It's hard to believe that we are 3 weeks into the school year. It's been a pleasure to drop into remote classrooms, to see the smiles on our students' faces and experience the incredible learning experiences that our teachers have prepared for their students. Their hard work is evidenced in the quality of the lessons and the engagement of their students. I just want to say thank you, teachers, for everything that you're doing. Your hard work and the time that you're putting in is noted and appreciated by everyone in the community. Please know that we continue to monitor guidance from the governor and the state and county health and education departments as it relates to our ability to deliver remote and or in-person instruction in a way that's safe and responsible for the health and well-being of our students, staff, and our families. That's my report. Mr. Maher.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hagelin. Next item is our consent agenda. The Pleasanton Board of Trustees utilizes a consent calendar for items that require the approval of the board but are of routine nature. They act upon these items in one vote. Any member may remove an item for additional questions. Board members receive their agenda and backup materials 5 days in advance of our meeting. They have the opportunity to ask questions and to do research prior to our meeting. It is their intent to handle the routine items expeditiously so they have time to address more serious issues. Would anyone like to pull any of the items off? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a motion? This will be a roll call vote.
I'll go ahead and move approval of the consent agenda.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Yee?
Aye.
Trustee Arkin?
Aye.
Trustee Larson?
Aye.
Trustee Miller?
Aye.
And Trustee Maher, aye. So carried. Now we move into our report, discussion, and possible action for some of the items. 12.1 is report and discussion only. The start of school update. Dr. Haglund.
Thank you, President Maher. We're prepared tonight to deliver a report that will update the board and the community on our progress in opening school for the 2020-2021 school year. As you're aware, staff has been implementing a full remote learning program per the governor's order. Students and staff are reconnected and they're adjusting, as Rachel described, to new protocols. And that's from kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade. People are making those adjustments. Our parents are working together to support both their students and their teachers. And I want to, I really want to thank Michelle for the focus of her comments tonight and acknowledging the efforts of the parents to share that kind of kindness and love with the teachers who are just working so hard. And I concur with her comments tonight. We are continuing, as I said, to monitor the Alameda County Public Health Department guidance. We're reflecting and adjusting and trying to communicate as we move forward. And I just want to, as we go through the presentation tonight, I just want to remind everyone of the reopening plan that was approved by the board on July 14th. And so that's a great resource for folks to look back towards if they're wondering what is likely to come in our next steps. So that plan, remember, was developed in collaboration with our staff and the leadership and input from community members. And we were ready to walk it forward until the governor put us on the monitoring list and then told school districts within counties on the monitoring list that they could not return to school. So as those rules are relaxed, we'll revisit that plan. We're already beginning to engage in conversations with association leaders and others about what that might look like as we move forward. And so this is a collaborative effort. It is intended to be a collaborative effort, and we're committed to keeping it that way. So I just want to leave everyone with the reminder of that plan, and I'm going to now turn it over to Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you, Dr. Haglund. Good evening, President Maher, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Haglund, staff, and community. I want to echo Dr. Haglund's comments and others. We truly appreciate all of our staff's commitment to our students and the hard work in these challenging times. It's greatly appreciated. The first slides are the Human Resources report on our reopening. I want to hand it over to Director Mike Williams of Human Resources that is going to guide us through the first slides. Mr. Williams.
So thank you for inviting me tonight to speak. First, I'd like to recognize the Human Resources Department. We do a lot of work behind the scenes, so I think it's important to acknowledge everyone that's part of the process to supporting staff, but also onboarding staff to make sure our students and sites are supported throughout every single year, every single class. As you can see, the head of our division is Mr. Hernandez. I report directly to Mr. Hernandez, but we do have many members of our team, including Andy Antipis, who's our coordinator, who focuses primarily on supporting certificate, finds any which way possible to make sure that we can support our students by getting a highly qualified teacher in the class to support the students. We have our analysts who are split between classified and certificate, which is Tony Cardenas and Melissa Sano, and our techs who work right under them, supporting them to process paperwork, which is Jackie Woods and Manisha Welling. We can't go out recognizing Nancy Bronzini, who is our coordinator for risk, safety, benefits, and leaves. As we've been in COVID, we've had a variety of circumstances where individuals had to find different ways to support themselves or support their family. So the leaves end of what she oversees has been extremely busy the past 6 months or so. And she's supported by Siobhan McCord. And then Barbara Bennett, as everyone knows, is our receptionist in the front, the first person to greet you when you walk in the door. I also want to recognize Barbara Jernstead, who has joined our department within the last 7 months, who has been a right hand for me and the rest of the department, making sure communications go out timely and making sure that our system is supported as best we can with the human resources. On to the next slide, please. So one thing I want to start off with, it kind of paint a picture for everyone on the vacancies that we filled over the last 4 years, which would include this year. As you can see, for most of the years leading up to the 1920 years, pretty consistent on the number of administrators and teachers that we've had to onboard. As you can see in 2019-20, we had a bump in the teacher category and also administrators. For the administrators, that was a year where we added a number of staff, which included increasing our vice principals at the elementary to full-time positions. We added our 2 coordinators of operations at the high schools, which helped support the athletics, the music program, ASB, and facilities. And during that time, we also added the language acquisition coordinator to help with our dual immersion program at the elementary school and continuing into the middle school. So those are some reasons why the number's a little higher there. As far as teacher, yes, we do recognize that's a little bit higher than the other years. Some of those things that we looked at the data that showed reasons for that being so high. Some of it is we've had a lot of partial individuals hired that year. So the FTE was a little bit closer, but because of the partials, the number of staff members that we onboarded is a little bit higher. We also had a unique year where we had quite a few people looking to relocate, some of them out of state, some of them other areas of California. And then we also offered an extra incentive that spring for certificated staff if they were going to retire. So we had our traditional fall incentive, but we also added one additional incentive for staff to retire. So that hopefully helps explain the increase on the 1920 year. And then as you can see in going into this year, we had a fairly low number of administrators. Fortunately, we had a lot of administrators continue with us. So hopefully that's because of the support and professional development we're providing them. And then as you can see, the teachers are a little bit lower than they typically are. The 8 pending, I want to explain that. So that when this presentation was developed, we had 8 teachers that were in the process of being onboarded. So we wanted to call that and recognize that they weren't officially on board at the time, but they were in the process of completing their paperwork and getting ready to support our students. A couple ways we use occasionally to onboard staff members. There's some other options we can use. If we can link into that slide real quick, and I'll run through briefly so everyone can understand. So there's a couple options, some options we can use. Some of the options include a provisional internship permit, and essentially that is someone is going into a program or thinking about going into a credentialing program. They still have the qualifying units that prepare them and qualify them to teach the class, but there's a process we can go through. Sometimes you'll see that we usually bring them to the board for approval. We have short-term staff permit. Usually everyone refers to it as a STIP. A little bit similar. Usually that ends up being where someone is qualified. They're in the process of completing their credential, and usually there's one piece that's missing as they're going through the process. Most of the time, it's typically some assessment that they're still waiting so that they complete their credential. And then we have variable waivers. This is something that is we haven't used in many cases, but this has been allowed to be used by the CTC in more cases. And again, these individuals have to be fully qualified to be in the position, but because of COVID, they've allowed us to use this. So this is typically used for hard to fill positions, but occasionally we'll use this. And the last couple that we have that typically we'll bring to the board again, and we'll use only if we cannot find a fully credentialed or suitable teacher, is we'll go to an ed code. And what that is we have a staff member who has a credential, but the credential is in a different subject area. The individual may have some credits that qualify them to teach the class, but they don't have the credential in that area. So we'll bring it to the board and explain why we have to use this, but that is the reason why we use an ed code. And the TPSL, teaching permit for statutory leave, those are used when we have someone that goes on some type of leave. Right now, we're looking at possibly being able to use if someone has to go on a COVID leave. But this is used where there's some coursework that they have to complete, and there is a fee for the waiver. But they're allowed to stay in the classroom and have a consistent person while they're subbing when another teacher's on leave. So again, these are some options that we do use to help support the students in the learning environment. Again, we always look to hire suitable, highly qualified teachers whenever possible. But those are some reasons, some options that we can use as we onboard staff. Next person is going to be talking a little bit about our leaves program. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I'm jumping a slide. I apologize. One of the things we're looking at is for substitutes this year. So yes, we're in a different world right now. But one of the things we have to make sure that our substitutes are suitable for supporting our students is we have a work expectation waiver that we required all of our substitutes to sign this year. And basically that's notifying of what their expectations are. But the key one is we're requiring all substitutes to be present on the campus that they're supporting. They're provided a location where they can go, a Chromebook so they can support the Zoom links and the interactive process with the learning environment. And if they need any additional support, they have staff members there to make sure that they understand what they need to do and make sure that our students are supported appropriately. Many trainings that have been provided for our substitutes include attendance training that took place. It also can be referred to in this presentation, and other professional developments, tools that can be used to help support substitutes and teachers while they're delivering remote lessons. One of the other areas we still want to support is our community, and we have many community members that want to support our schools by volunteering. We do have 3 levels that they can follow for supporting our students. A day-to-day classroom volunteer is what we use our Raptor program that we've introduced previously, and essentially it just checks to make sure that they pass the Megan Logs test and can be supporting our kids. They do the check, they drop their license in the front, and they're able to process it and work with whatever program they need to work with on a day-to-day basis. And then as we're going through the program volunteers, these are more long-term processes, so it's more than just a day-to-day. We have a volunteer clearance process that should be posted on every school site's website. They submit information, and then we do a next level scanning working with the Pleasanton Police Department, who checks typical vehicle records and those types of things to make sure that they're suitable supporting and being around kids. And then the next level is typically for our assistant club advisors or those who do overnight chaperones. And right now, some of our programs are having camps. Our band program, our athletics programs are having camps, doing the virtual distance and supporting kids, including the engagement that our students need. And those have to go through another level of process, which typically includes a full FBI DOJ fingerprinting process to make sure they're safe and appropriate for our kids. Of course, since we're in a COVID environment, we need to make sure our individuals that are volunteering are healthy and safe to be around our environment. So we do have a COVID-19 health screener. It's slightly different than the ones our staff members do, but it still follows the same guidance of Alameda County Health requires us to, so that we can make sure that everyone that's coming on our campus is safe, healthy, and able to successfully support our students in our community. Now it's time to move on to Nancy Bronzini, Coordinator 2, who can discuss some of the leaves that we're seeing. Nancy?
Oops. Thank you, Mike. I just lost my, sorry about that. Let me find my verbiage. So good evening, everyone. And one of my roles, as you know, in human resources is to work with our employees who are requesting a leave of absence. And I sort through which leave is appropriate for their need. And when an employee requests a leave due to their own serious illness, or they're caring for someone else in their family who's seriously ill, my first direction is to review the federal rules under the Family Medical Leave Act, also known as FMLA, very familiar to most people. Employees meet normal FMLA eligibility after they have worked 1,250 hours the previous 12-month period. In the next slide, you will see that during the COVID-19 pandemic, legislation expanded FMLA with additional expansion packets by first providing a much earlier eligibility period under that FMLA. So an employee would qualify for the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act or EPSLA, EPSLA, if they were hired at least 30 days prior to applying for an expanded family medical leave. So you see that they don't have to spend the whole year. If they were hired 30 days, something happens, they get exposed, right away they're eligible for this expanded FMLA. An emergency the emergency paid leave is also a new expansion on the leaves that entitles an employee up to 80 hours of paid leave for 40 hours of work. And that is prorated based on the hours if they work less hours, but it's all capped at $511 per day. And then you will see that where the legislation created the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Act, or the EFMLA. This was designed specifically to help support families that couldn't work because they lost childcare due to COVID shutdowns. So at the bottom of this second slide are a couple of links that show how I have to calculate some of these leaves based on legislation and based on collective bargaining agreements. But these expanded leaves are currently scheduled to sunset on December 31st of this year. And we just review these as they come along based on each person's needs. So with that, I will turn this platform over to Mr. Hernandez.
Yes, thank you so much, team, for those slides and that information. I'm going to hand over next to Mr. Shido Salami, our Assistant Superintendent of Business.
Great, thank you, and good evening, board and community. Just a quick update, our business services team, which includes many of the various operational departments, have been really busy. I want to give a big thank you to our unsung heroes of distance learning, which is our technology team, both our site techs who have been working from the summer and our district office techs who have been working as well very hard during the summer and helping prepare for distance learning. We've had thousands of Chromebooks be assigned to our families and to our students. Hundreds of hotspots have gone out. We've had to completely reconfigure our student information system and prepare for our attendance taking. Countless hours have been coordinated with teaching and learning to make sure our curriculum and instructional information is well integrated and available, and continue troubleshooting various issues that come up. I think today I got word that we've had over 1,000 help desk type of responses for parents and students through our Google Forms. So there's a big commitment and a big drive. Lots of hours have been put in, and we'll continue doing that for our students and staff. Additionally, our operations group has been busy. After finishing a deep cleaning of our schools, we have a process in place that helps cleaning and disinfecting our school sites. Even in distance learning, we do have many staff who are using their classrooms. Our offices are used on a regular basis. And so we have put together a strong and intensive cleaning procedure in place and making sure that our staff are safe. In addition, we're also prepared to move into a hybrid learning model to ensure the classrooms are cleaned and disinfected regularly. Our main concentration will be disinfecting between any cohort changes, in addition to maintaining soap and sanitizers at all classroom locations and throughout the campus, and conducting and using some of our clean and green and very effective disinfection sprays in the classrooms. Another area that we've concentrated our effort is to make sure we procure the protective equipment for all our staff, and to ensure that we have masks, both cloth masks and face shields have been provided to all our staff. We continue to have disposable masks available, and ensuring that hand sanitizers and other disinfection type of material are available. We've also put up kind of similar to like Costco or Home Depot kind of barriers in our office locations if there are any interactions with the public, and providing other PPE to specialized staff as well. Another group that has been incredible have been our child nutrition folks who have been working ever since we were in kind of the COVID pandemic or early in March to provide the Seamless Summer program throughout the summer and provide food to all families who needed it. As we transitioned into the school, we've now moved into a remote learning food service. So we've established 7 sites that our students, any student can pick up food or purchase. And in addition, during the unhealthy things, we had unhealthy air quality, we had to kind of minimize our stations, but hopefully with the air quality going back up, we'll be at the 7 sites. We've had to really expand our outreach. We started slow, but we are now back up to kind of the daily averages of about 450 meals that we saw during the summer. So that's some good news. And they've been really connecting well with the community, and it's been a very, I think, a positive interaction that our community have had with our food service. So that's just a quick update on some of the operational stuff. Our facilities group has been, knocking it out of the park. We've aggressively hit some of our maintenance projects at the schools and taking advantage of students being out, and that includes taking 3 of our campuses, including Amador High School. And I was out there today, and it looks exceptional. We should be wrapping it up in the next week or 2, as well as Pleasanton Middle School and Vintage Hills. We had a couple of fencing projects; those are underway and being wrapped up. And then again, continuing our HVAC and roofing projects as well, and those were completed during the summer. We got many projects going on. I was out at Leidixon, again, another incredible project that's taking shape. The buildings are now vertical, and we are looking at occupancy, hopefully when the kids come back in December, and that would be for 2 of the main classroom buildings that are currently under construction. And we will be also opening the library building later in September. And I was in it today. Again, quality craftsmanship, an incredible rebuild after the fire damage. And we are also looking at, towards the end of the month, awarding and breaking ground at our 2 high school projects, following that up in the spring with our science building at Hart. So a lot of work going out there, and the team is really doing a great job. So at this point, I believe I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Woodward.
Thank you so much, Ahmad. It has really been exciting to see how our students are doing so well during the first 3 weeks of instruction. And if you wouldn't mind going back to there you go. Thank you. We have, just like Michelle Verkylen said and Dr. Haglund said, we are incredibly thankful for the talent with our certificated staff, our classified staff, for our wonderful students who are showing up on a regular basis, and for the understanding and patience and support from our parent community. Some highlights of the first 3 weeks have included effective professional development, numerous curricular integrations that have been updated. We've had 13 new curricular integrations that have come on board, which has resulted in positively impacting 50 different courses. As well, our digital platforms so that parents and students can access information continue to be utilized. I've been on many of these Google Classrooms or Seesaws, and I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing and how well organized they are. We have common, consistent daily schedules. This is a different shift from where we were in spring in order to reinforce predictability. And then daily live student interaction. We have also made an intentional effort to balance live interaction and screen time with other independent assignments for our students in order that our students can continue to remain engaged with learning activities, but also experience social and emotional wellness. I'm very proud to say that our LPAC testing has been going very well. We have had 65% of our students that have completed the testing. That's 255 students out of 412 that were initially eligible to do the LPAC testing, and we're already done. I say with great pride that we are the only district in the county that has actually started this process, and we are 62% done. And so I'd like to compliment Dr. Mandekamp and her team for this great effort. Our principals have been working extremely hard at their sites to ensure that there's effective communication going out to families, and that has also included material distribution. And elementary back to school nights have all been held virtually. I was able to attend several of those myself, and I was very pleased with what we saw. And tonight we have most of our middle schools and our high schools doing our back to school nights. Foothill will follow next week, and then that would be followed by Village High School. We are very proud of the strong communication that we've had with our families. And also, I would like to say that our adult education is starting. We have 200 students beginning our ESL classes. We have experienced a few challenges. Of course, we miss our students and we wish they were here with us. There have been some surprises and some challenges with our devices, but we're working through those, and we're extremely grateful for the support from our technology department. And then there were some delays with our curricular integrations, but we are working that through in a very swift process. And it did take some time for our students to get used to new schedules. And then, of course, we've had some power outages and we've had fires, but hopefully that those are being resolved and we won't have to experience that again. So as well, as I stated earlier, this remote learning that we're in right now, it does have system instructional support. And so our instructional schedules are consistent. As I've stated, the assignments are visible for parents and for students. There are requirements for live daily instruction per SB 98, and we're adhering to those. We are doing a good job with our systems for taking daily attendance, and we are using digital tools for assessment and progress monitoring, and I'll be talking a little bit more about our assessments in upcoming slides. We started the year with some effective and very robust professional development. On the week of July 20th to the 24th, we had a virtual summit. Thankful for our integration specialists for doing such a great job with that. And for all of the teachers that attended and our classified staff and even substitute teachers that attended in order to be trained on effective remote instruction strategies, equity and inclusive practices, assessment protocols and data analysis, social emotional learning, SEL practices, and support for students with special needs and English learners. That was optional, but even though it was optional, I have to say that we were packed. We had a full house, and in some cases had to open up additional rooms so that teachers could attend. We had our ongoing professional development that continued on August 7th. We had our Welcome Back Professional Development Day, and we have upcoming professional development that will be occurring during on Wednesdays, and we're planning for that as we speak. Our assessment process has also become more refined this year, and it is cohesive and it is consistent. And so these are I've already spoken about the initial LPAC testing that is happening and will continue. And as well, from now until September 30th, we're engaging in our district literacy assessment. And these are assessments have been revised, as we mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, by our intervention specialists to support remote learning. Professional development has occurred, and teachers are in the process of assessing students one-on-one, and they're entering their scores into Illuminate. So we are able to monitor the progress of our students. As well, we are now in the process of implementing our math growth assessments. This happens for students in second grade for math, third through eighth grade students in reading and math. And we have had some professional development that has occurred for this already this year, and will continue to provide support. Teachers are in the process of administering this assessment remotely. This will be a very powerful tool for us to be able to use in order to progress monitor our students, and it will occur 3 times during the year, and it will help us to obtain data on how students are progressing and will be very informative for our learning continuity plan. And so we know that this is a shift for many of our teachers. We're incredibly thankful for their perseverance and their patience, and also for the parent support as we navigate this test. Please be assured that this will be very useful, as it will allow our students to set stretch goals and will allow us to ensure that students make steady progress. As well, we've had the beginning of the year ninth grade math assessment, and this too will be entered in Illuminate. So we will have a consistent system for capturing the achievement data of our students in a timely manner. I mentioned the learning continuity plan. We finished our thought exchange, and you can see some of the key themes that emerged from that exchange from our employees and also from our community. And this included key themes of daily, engaged teaching assignments. And the thought exchange has also been broken down into several different areas according to the themes of the local continuity plan that will be coming to the board for an initial reading on September 10th. Specific feedback from the community will be used to inform how we are developing our actions and our services. And this does include and represents stakeholder engagement from our virtual town hall meetings, from our school reopening task force, and in addition to the thought exchange from our steering committee and other groups that we have had. In terms of the local continuity plan, we've also engaged so far this year with our LCAC and our DLAC meetings in order to gain input that will inform our local continuity plan. And with that, I'd like to go to the last slide for teaching and learning. So teaching and learning has identified, we have many instructional priorities, but the ones I'd like to highlight for us tonight start with providing quality remote instruction for all students. That will be a focus while we are on remote instruction. And when we begin to come back, it will be to provide quality hybrid or in-person instruction for all of our students. Along with that includes implementing instructional interventions for struggling students. And this is where using the assessments that I spoke about earlier will be very important to us as we consider the interventions. And then strengthening teacher and administrator capacity by providing ongoing support and professional development. And we're extremely grateful that we'll be able to embed that time into our weekly schedules, and that we have specific Wednesdays that have been set aside in order to continue to help grow our capacity as a professional learning community. And on that note, I am happy to pass to Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services, Mr. Ed Dialazzo.
Thank you, Dr. Woodward. So in Student Support Services, I'm going to cover three areas that we've been working on here at the start of the school year. The first one being obviously our main focus to start the school year is health and safety. So we've had collaboration with so many state, federal, and local agencies to really gather information, process it, analyze it, and then provide training and communications to our staff and to our community. It's been a big job. There's no question. I can't sugarcoat it. It's really been a big job to try and analyze all that information for the entire district, not just Student Support Services, but everybody involved. So, and that's just for COVID. So we've also had the air quality that we've been tracking, the extreme heat, the red flag warnings for fire. There's many things that we've been tracking here at the start of the school year to make sure that our staff and students are safe. And then along with the PG&E power outages and power shutoff possibilities as well. Governor Newsom's address in July, he talked about how local districts and counties have to use data and metrics to determine when it is safe to return to some level of instruction. So we look at that information. Right now, City of Pleasanton is still on the state's county monitoring list. And so there are specific metrics that need to be in place before counties come off that monitoring list. And so recently, just this week, we actually, if you can go back, Akmal, I'm sorry, I just want to say one more thing. Just this week, we just received some new information from the California Department of Public Health on guidance of targeted support services for specific groups of students. So we are pouring through that information now. There are some things in there that will allow some small cohorts of kids possibly to receive some level of service. So right now we're trying to determine what are the definitions for, what small group of students are we really talking about. Some things that I do know just from reading a few of the publications that have been coming out, or the guidance been coming out, students with disabilities is a priority group. The other priority groups are students who are English language learners, our foster youth, our unsheltered youth. Those have all been targeted as groups that are in need of additional support services that may be enable us to support the students at some level. So again, like I said, we're pouring through that information now and really looking at what are the conditions that we need to meet both for staff safety and student safety in order to provide those services. So more to come on that, we hope soon. The other document that we use that is very important for us is this document right here. It's called the COVID-19 School Guidance document. It's from the Alameda County Office of Education and Alameda County Public Health Department. It's a joint effort and joint guidance. And actually right now it's on version 7. It actually just came out today, August 27th with version 7. It's been updated almost weekly. And what's important in this particular document, it gives school districts scenarios and protocols for how to deal with a staff member or student who may come down with COVID-19. So it's very important for us to follow that protocol. It's very specific guidelines that we have to follow. And it's a straight connection to the Alameda County Public Health Department if that is to occur here in our school district, that we have to report it and then follow their guidance. Anyway, it's linked here for those of you interested in what that protocol is. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about some updates from our student services department. And the 3 updates I want to talk about are enrollment, attendance, and immunization requirements. I'll start with immunization. Just a really quick update. Immunization requirements for all children in California remain in place. There's no relief from that. So we are very careful in making sure that those records have been submitted for registration requirement purposes. And then if not, I know our school sites, our attendance people, our clerical, and even our principals are calling parents to make sure that those immunization records are up to date. Next page. So there's a lot of numbers on this page, but I think I just want to really focus on our enrollment, and this particular page is about our elementary enrollment. So if you look on the left-hand side where it says first day, we track the enrollment almost daily. And so for the first day of school, August 11th, if you just look at that subtotal there, the elementary total for enrollment is 5,928. Thank you, Ahmad, for that, moving that cursor. One more, about a few more down. Yeah, right there, 5,928. So that was the first day enrollment in 2021. If you look at the 1920, right to the left of it is 6,181. So you can see we have a pretty significant drop in our enrollment numbers on the first day of school. And it's even more telling at the secondary level. So there's, again, a lot of numbers on here. Y'all can look at it as needed, but I just wanted to focus on the first day comparisons between last year and this year. Next page. So this is our secondary enrollment numbers. I'll kind of draw your attention to that same kind of general area at the bottom left. If you look at the total middle school and high school totals there, you can see the 1920 for middle school. There's the high school, and then the total high school numbers. The total secondary enrollment, total secondary enrollment and elementary enrollment at the first day of school was 14,500 students. If you compare that to the 1920 school year at the beginning of the year, it's 14,902. So again, that's a very significant drop in enrollment of about 400 students. Next page. Wanted to talk a little bit about attendance and engagement. I think there were some questions about synchronous instruction and asynchronous instruction, and specifically how we take attendance. So SB 98, Senate Bill 98, did provide us some accountability requirements regarding attendance tracking. So essentially, there are two ways that students can show their participation, but also their attendance to instruction, and that's that synchronous method, which is that live method, face-to-face, remote learning, but also asynchronous, where turning in classwork, independent work, assignments, and projects, and so forth. I think the main thing that I want to point out on this slide is that students are expected to participate with a visual attendance check-in during synchronous time. I really just want to put that out there. The confusion may be where some students there may be barriers for them to participate with that visual check-in. So SB 98 does allow for other ways for students who may have barriers or a reason for not participating visually to document their synchronous attendance, and that's through an auditory means or in the chat feature. Just want to really make that clear, but the purpose is not to miss synchronous instruction. That has to be really, really clear. We expect students to participate visually, but if they're unable to, then we can count their attendance in some other way, okay? I think what SB 98 really does is it doesn't penalize students who may have that barrier, again, for that visual check-in. All right, I just wanted to go over that. In terms of engagement, go back one more. In terms of engagement, if students are habitually late or leaving their sessions early, then there is that opportunity for teachers to follow up with the student, parents, or even our attendance staff, because that engagement piece is really, really important. Next page. So in terms of that engagement, we want to make sure that we provide interventions for students who may be showing multiple absences. So I'm not going to go over this very busy page, but essentially we have a tiered system of supports that support students who may, again, show multiple absences, disengaging from their sessions. And so bottom tier is really a site level intervention where you may get a first truancy letter, and this is after 3 absences. Again, you can read that for yourselves, but it's kind of that low level intervention. As kids maybe miss now 5 absences, now we're going to ramp up our services. Maybe our social workers get involved, our SST teams. We have a school site attendance review team, so we can probably move into that if we see kids that are again, increasing in their absences. And then kids with 7 or more absences, then we really ramp up our intervention services. It's all about trying to get kids in class, getting their instruction, and then also making sure that they are engaged. Next page. A couple of highlights from special education at the beginning of the week, beginning of the year, sorry. Staff development. We already talked a little bit about our staff development and our SPED University. Our staff put together some really great modules of training for both certificated and classified staff. You could see here some of the work that's been done. Those first bullets there, your first 30 days, assessments, Flipgrid, Just Words, all of those for our certificated staff members in special education. And then also for our para-educators, we had classes such as Google Meet, Google Chat, DocHub, Clever, Edgenuity, and so forth. So we're really fortunate to have great staff to put together trainings and then provide the trainings at the start of the school year. I had the opportunity, next page. I had the opportunity to visit some of our classes. I'll put a couple of pictures up here of those classes that I visited. And so we're really happy to see students being engaged, our teachers prepared and doing some really awesome work. And these are a couple of our classrooms in our special day class program, elementary, preschool, and so forth. But I really had a great time visiting those classes, seeing the kids, and seeing our teachers in action. Next page. And the other one highlight I wanted to talk about briefly, we did have a special ed community forum last night, and we were able to go through a lot of questions from our parents of students with special needs. This is one of the items that I just wanted to briefly highlight. We are doing our assessments now, or we're implementing, and we are doing all the required initial and triennial assessments for our students with IEPs, individualized education plans. That is going now. But what we wanted to do is provide our staff with multiple modes of doing that assessment. And so one of them, we're trying to procure a program called Presence Learning, and that is an online option for assessment for our staff, psychologists, speech pathologists, occupational therapists, and other ed specialists. The other thing, too, that I wanted to point out is we did get new guidance just recently about in-person services such as assessments and support services for our students with disabilities. So like I said, we're going through that information now. We want to make sure we do it right. We want to make sure that we give our staff the information and guidance that's coming down from the public health department so that everybody is safe when we start doing in-person assessments. So that is it for me. Yep, that is it. I'll turn it back to Dr. Haglund.
Thank you very much, team. So, President Maher,
yes,
a lot of information, and I hope you've been able to consume as much of it as possible, but obviously we're here to take any kind of questions that you might have.
I have a couple of questions right off the top. One, do you have any idea what percentage of our students are checking in daily? And if not daily, like they're involved, they may be sick one day or whatever, but how many are actually joining in the programs?
Yeah, I wish I had an answer for you there, President Maher. It's one of those technical glitchy things that we're really trying to work on in terms of taking that accurate measure of that attendance. One of the reasons why we've sort of delayed that process that I just described about attendance and how we follow up, we actually are starting the robocalls, or the calls for students who are missing classes, starting on Monday. We pushed it back a couple of weeks from the start of school year. Again, it's that new way of doing attendance that we're trying to work through some of the glitches. I know Kathleen Reif is on the line too. I didn't know, Kathleen, if you wanted to add anything.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Dialazzo. So I really want to thank Amy Nichols. She's been a really great help in getting conversations going with our auditor, with the state, and then also with our Q, our student information system. So in order to track the attendance during distance learning, we had to create new attendance codes for our staff. So it's called synchronous distance learning or asynchronous distance learning. And within that, then we have to map that to how we create reports to track the attendance. And so we've been meeting with our attendance staff and our vice principals who are serving as our point people at each school site for attendance related questions. And we've been meeting with them weekly, and guidance continues to change about weekly. And so we have to even kind of modify and adapt with what we started with. We were one of the first school districts to start. And as we've been providing feedback at the county level and then on to the state, they've been making some changes. And so we will probably have to make a couple of changes as well, in just how we have teachers do confirming reports and things of that nature. So we want to make sure that we really have a good handle on kind of what's being asked of us long term before we kind of make those adjustments. Anecdotally, overall, a large percentage of our students are participating, logging in, and participating synchronously, which is really great. And that is our preferred preference. We know our teachers work really hard to provide high quality instruction, and that is how we want students to participate when they can. So if students for some reason cannot participate synchronously, then they can participate asynchronously by completing the assignments and sending back to the teacher on the same day. It does have to be on the same day for them to get credit. And we can't expect our teachers to change the student's attendance on the same day. So if a student submits an assignment at 10 o'clock at night, we don't expect our teachers to go log in at 10:30, check their email, and then update the attendance. So we have to give them some time to review the assignments, make sure that it's about the same time value, equivalent, and then go back and update the attendance. And so with that, we've created about a 7-day window for them to go back and have that opportunity and to be able to follow up and communicate with the students. And so even with that process, there were things within the computer system that we will have to make a change to, and that change will be starting most likely on Monday. And so we're drafting that communication to hopefully go out to teachers tomorrow. And we just met with staff today at the attendance meeting today. So there will be continuing to be some updated changes. There is a grace period here for us on attendance. The state gave us until September 1st to really start reviewing. They knew that there was going to be changes going on. So we really appreciate all of the hard work. Our attendance staff have been amazing, helping us follow up on all of these. We still want parents to call in if their child is expected to be out. And so those are kind of like the main points at this point, but it's an ongoing topic.
Thank you.
Steve, if I can add that the purpose of the learning continuity plan is really to structure the process by which we re-engage students who are not being engaged. So when we think about attendance in this new environment that we're in, attendance is not about trying to prove that people were here. It really is about trying to track those that were missing and going out and collecting them. And so we just want to make sure that we're thinking about attendance in this new world in a positive way. It really isn't about you having to prove your existence. It's about tracking and making sure that we're reaching out and recapturing those kids that have disconnected.
Very good. The other question I have is in regards to, I've heard a little bit of feedback because we are doing a good job, but the difficulty for teachers and parents that have multiple little ones. And when they're trying to give a lesson, then they're trying to also take care of their own children, or parents that are also working remotely, trying to help their students with the lessons. And I don't really have any answers. I just wonder, are we going to be trying to look at what we might be able to do? Because people are getting stressed out, not only students, but parents, not only the teachers, but also the parents that are trying to assist their youngsters, plus do their own job. I think someone mentioned before, we didn't realize how big, not a problem, but how big remote learning is. It's not just turning on the computer. It's very, very complex and takes up a full day's worth of work, I guess.
Yeah, I think, to reference back to Michelle Verkuylen's comments earlier, I think she summed it up very well in terms of the levels of complexities that our teachers are wrestling with. And as Kathleen just stated, and I think Ed did too a few seconds ago, one of the harder parts of it is that the rules keep moving, the lines keep shifting. And so, it'd be great if it would stick in one place for one period of time, because we could probably develop and innovate around those directions. But as soon as we start to get something that's implementable, if that's a word, it shifts. And so it makes people almost feel crazy, because you can't ever get your feet firmly planted in a plan. So I totally understand the comments that you're hearing from people. And as you know, we implemented an attempt to try to provide some support for our teachers who had children that they needed to accommodate. So we're doing our best to develop plans in collaboration with our partners at APT. But this is incredibly difficult, and it's incredibly difficult for everybody. And everybody is given about as much as they can give. So we just have to keep listening and attuning the plan to the needs of the group.
They're not complaints. It's just something that's coming up that no one was aware of, I guess.
Right.
That's all I have. Other people on the board, Joan, Mark?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. So just the drop of 400 students from year over year, while significant, it's actually, I don't think it's as bad as I was expecting to be, in all honesty. There were just so many folks who were, just not sure what they were planning to do and where they were going to be. And there were just a lot of things up in the air. So So, of course, I would like to see those numbers go up, but they aren't as bad as I was expecting. So, just to be clear, though, we're not going to suffer a reduced amount of revenue for our average daily attendance because there's the hold harmless. Is that still correct?
Yes, that is correct. We will be using our 1920 numbers. We'll see where we are at P1. We'll see where we are, when we take the seedbed numbers in October. But if we are still at those numbers, yes, we will use 1920 numbers.
So a nuanced add-on to what Alma just said is if we don't do well with our learning continuity plan and we are not engaging students who are disengaged, there are penalties that can be applied to our ADA if we fail to re-engage those students.
And that was actually my second question. So I understand that we're moving into, as Ms. Reif was mentioning, really starting next week of, I don't know what the right word is, being a little bit more strict about those numbers and that engagement. So do we know whether or not, I'm just going to say the 400, the net, is it possible that some of those folks they really aren't in our district anymore and they just haven't informed us? In other words, they've gone on to do something else, or they've moved, or they're really doing it. It's not necessarily that the kids are just not engaged. They might just not even be here anymore. And we just won't know that until that process happens where we're reaching out and saying, hey, we haven't heard from you. I have a teacher might have 2 kids in her class that literally have never, connected with us.
Kathleen could definitely answer this better than me, but that snapshot that I gave all of you tonight is a snapshot of the enrollment. Mm-hmm. Those are the kids registered for our district. The attendance is different. So you're right. And Kathleen, can you expand?
Yeah, I'll add a little something to that. Our attendance staff are really amazing, and they have been calling every family if a student hasn't checked in. And so generally kind of through that first 2 weeks of school, that's when we really find out, people might have registered over the summer and then their plans changed and they moved. I think even as we decided, we're going into remote learning, I think there was some students that were shifting and parents had to make other decisions. We've definitely heard from some families who've left the country and were trying to stay enrolled and work remotely. And unfortunately, unless it's a short-term trip, we can't keep them enrolled here in the district. The largest number of students that have left or no longer enrolled are at the elementary level. So there's about roughly 250 students difference from the second week of school last year to this year. And I really do think that is probably due to some childcare needs. And our next report that we're going to try to run here shortly is if we can see, the drop exit code reasons, if they left out of the country, if they left out of the state, kind of what's kind of driving some of that, if we can get totals on those. And I know at TK and Kinder, childcare facilities are operating in person, and so we've seen some drops there. I think parents have shifted to go to childcare that's in person rather than enroll in our programs. And so I think if we are able to shift back to some kind of hybrid scenario at some point, that we would see enrollment come back, because those are programs that parents pay for too. So generally speaking, our TK and Kinder programs are very full, and we have to open new ones in January because everyone wants to get in. So I could see that shifting too if we are able at some point to shift back to some hybrid.
Yeah, I was wondering about that specifically, since neither TK nor kindergarten are required grades, whether the drop in elementary, if we were seeing a larger percentage of that occurring in TK and kindergarten, just because for the reasons that you stated, but also because it's not required that families send their kindergarten's not a required grade anyway. So yeah, I was wondering about that too. And then I again, the comment about things changing so quickly, so looking at today's update of the ACOE and county health document, and up until this moment, we've been told that Alameda County is not accepting any waiver requests. But then if I'm just glancing through this updated document today, it sounds like actually they are talking about elementary school waivers, even for those counties that are, still on the monitoring list. So have you had a chance to look at that, and do we know whether or not the health department is actually accepting waivers? Do we know?
Sure. So the state's position is shifting, but if you read it carefully, it says that the responsibility for determining whether or not to grant waivers is placed on the county public health officer. And districts can apply even if the county health officer says we're not granting them. But right now, Alameda County is not accepting waivers.
Okay, so that didn't change today in today's document then?
Not from the county's perspective.
Okay.
You have to remember that you're getting guidance from the state, the governor's office, the state public health office, but also the county's public health office. And we're responsible to the county public health office. And when we submit a waiver, it would go to that organization. And as of the call earlier today with the health officer, the answer was still the same. They're not accepting waivers at this time. It doesn't mean that they won't in some future revision. And if you look at there's a Ed referenced a version 7 document that's a collaborative document between Alameda County Office of Education and the Public Health Department in Alameda County. That is actually a very good, well-crafted collaborative document between those two organizations. And so they do give some kind of steps and where they think they are in the process. But right now, as of the call this afternoon, that was not a shift that they had made.
So I think we're still at 130 where we haven't dropped to below 100 cases per 100,000, and that's the main metric. Is that correct? That we would be looking for to come off the list?
So that's. Did you want to take it?
I was going to answer. That's one of the main metrics, and you're exactly right, Joan. I looked at it today too. It's 130.1. So that is the metric, and they are looking for the case rate to be below 100 to every 100,000 population.
And we have to stay off for 14 days.
Right.
Correct. 14.
And then we come off the monitoring list. But coming off the monitoring list does not necessarily change the position of the health department with regards to school reopening. So just because you come off that monitoring list, it's not like a flag goes up and says, okay, everybody free for all, you can do what you want. So we still have to work with the public health department, and then we internally have to be able to achieve those benchmarks that they set for us as an organization before we can bring back students onto our campus for school, so to speak. There's a lot of guidance in the new documents that talks about our ability to, I think Janelle referred to it earlier in the presentation, or maybe it was Ed, the learning groups and addressing specific student learning needs. So there is movement in that area, which the team is digging into right now.
Yeah, I've expressed my frustration with this before, and I'm going to say it again. It isn't PUSD's issue, but it's very frustrating to me that we are allowed to offer childcare in small groups through safety measures, all of the things that we would do in the hybrid model of our safety plans for our in-person teaching. And those employees who happen to be classified are going to be in those small groups of students. And yet we can't open classrooms for instructional teaching that would be the same, could be the same sets of kids, the same groups, the same PPE, the same process, all of those things. And I just find that inconsistency very troubling when, it is absolutely true that parents who are able to work remotely, who have that privilege to get to work remotely, yet they have their students at home that they're also needing, and as was mentioned, maybe they have 3 children and they're having to help 3 children with remote learning. And it isn't the teacher's fault and it's not their fault, it just is. But it's super challenging, and that's assuming that you have the privilege to work from home. If you don't, and yet you have childcare issues because perhaps you are not able to take advantage of some sort of COVID leave from your work. It's really difficult, and that's the frustration that we're hearing from parents who, yes, absolutely are very grateful for how hard they see everybody working and the care that they know is going into the plans to take care of their children. That isn't really the question. But I did want to, we were doing some really awesome recognitions today, and I agree wholeheartedly with them. But I also want to give a shout out to Meritha Simmons and Beth McCarthy, who've created a positive Facebook group for parents to share with each other and to ask questions about the struggles that they're facing with distance learning. And I just really want to thank them for, moderating any kind of group like that can be a full-time job. And so far, I think they're doing a great job, and the parents are, being respectful but asking hard questions and looking for help with each other, from each other as well. So I wanted to give them a shout out on that. So I'll see my time to anyone else has questions, and I probably have some more.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a quick question. Sorry I didn't ask this ahead of time, but it's on slide 15, and I was just trying to understand it. It appears both on highlights and also on challenges. Numerous curricular integrations updated and curricular integration delays. So could I get an example of each one of those? That's kind of a little confusing.
Sure, that's a great question. And Ahmad, you may want to just jump in as well. So what has been a challenge was also a success in many cases. So when we began the year, we realized that not all of the integrations were ready to go. That meant that the teachers wouldn't have access to those tools. So there were countless ones that we needed to activate. Reading A to Z is one example of one of those integrations that were necessary for our families. And part of it was the fact that the whole world has shifted to this new environment, and it took outreach to many of the companies in order to be able to have those be activated. And it took close work with technology services and teaching and learning in order for that to happen. So while there was a delay in integrating things with Clever and many other types of tools, especially at the secondary level, many for our music classes, the list just really goes on, and we have a long list of these items and have been updating it with Junior's help as well. But so when we realized that not all of them were ready to go, then we went into a full team effort working with the technology services in order to do everything we could to coordinate with the companies to get those so that they would be ready, so our rostering would be correct, so that our students would have access to that. So it was frustrating because we really would like, in a perfect situation, to begin the year with every single student having every single thing that they need and our teachers having advanced access to the tools. So that didn't happen in every single case. And yet we have worked steadily in order to bring those tools on board so that they're functioning well right now in our system. Ahmad, do you want to add on to that?
Right, yeah, it was, I think that you said it very, very well. We did a triage. We looked at where our resources should be allocated to best serve most of our staff and students. And so I would say within the first week and by this week, we're probably 95% there. And then our teams are working really closely with the teachers and staff to now open up some of the supplemental type of applications and support that our students need. And again, continuing to support special ed in their specialized needs and really taking care of it one by one, going deep into it, making sure that they're troubleshooted and they're tested, and then the access is available for both the students and staff.
I just want to say Amy Nichols has just been just a total rock star in handling all of this. I don't know if she's slept since the beginning of the school year, and I'm very thankful for the work that she has done to help make sure that our kids have access to all the tools that they need.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a little bit, it's probably frustration on everybody's part, right? You guys trying to get it together and get it ready. And then also the kids and the parents going, why is there not a more simple way, right? Like, for example, people were wanting Clever to get on board, but people didn't understand what it took to get Clever on board. And you needed to actually wait for schedule changes to be done or whatever. And there's just a lot of steps. And I think people maybe didn't realize that because in the past, I think our district has always been super responsive and quick to turn our ship. And this was a little different because we had so many ships we had to turn. And, I think everyone's done a great job, but I just, like Steve was saying, that there are these little bumps and things that people were frustrated about. But I think that answers it. I didn't know what you meant by curricular integrations, but that makes total sense. Thank you.
Valerie? Trustee, is that our district was one of the earliest ones to begin. And so not necessarily was everything out there in the world ready for us.
Valerie, you have questions?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, President Maher. Just kind of like what some of the other trustees have already said about teachers feeling very overwhelmed with children of their own and trying to teach, parents doing the same thing, and Trustee Larson brought up the child care issue, which I think is a really huge issue for a lot of people. So those are things that I don't know what else we can do to alleviate some of these things, but I think it's something we should always kind of, keep the pulse on that and see what other possibilities we can do or what other, maybe legislation that comes out that can help with that. So, and kind of on a segueing into this question about when it is safe to do so, of course, transitioning back to in-person instruction. It says 14 days off the watch list, but there could be other things, as Dr. Haglund has said. But just curious, because, for instance, hypothetically, if our numbers were to get better and we were given the okay to transition back into a hybrid model, what happens then when winter comes and there could be a huge outbreak and now our numbers are such that we can't have in-person instruction? Have they given any protocols on what that would look like? Because that's going to be, if we think it's overwhelming now, back and forth type of thing or what? I don't know. Have they said anything? I'm just curious about it.
So sure. There's a lot of conversation going about that. Recall in the spring, our numbers were going down and they relaxed a lot of the measures that they had. And then boom, we were right back in, shelter in place again. And so we've already had that experience one time. It just so happens that our kids weren't in school at the time. So the big change now would be if we opened in-person instruction, regardless of whether it's an AB model or a 2-1-2 model or, hybrid, whatever. There is a strong possibility that the virus will poke its head back up again. And we'll have to respond to that. And that guidance will come out as we respond to it. So no, there hasn't been anything specific, but I think we all know and are thinking about what does that look like? We can't plan for the way things are. And frankly, we can't even plan for the way things we think will be in a week or 2 weeks, because every week it's different. So, and we have very little control over that part of the environment. And so, yeah, it's going to be squirrely. I mean, Ed, I don't know if you want to add any more to that.
Not too much more. I mean, we've already kind of talked about just guidance being, I think for me, when I look at some of the guidance, it's kind of this kind of yo-yo effect. You know, you kind of take a couple of steps and then you go like, oh, I don't know if we could do that yet. And then we get a little bit of, oh, we can do all this now, you know, in support services for specific subgroups. And then as I read the document, it's like, oh, but you have to have all these considerations in place, all the health and safety things in place. Is your staff ready? Are your facilities ready? I mean, there's just all this stuff. And we've been kind of talking about it and planning for it, but it's just not as clean as I would like it to be, where we go, okay, this is that point where now we're totally coming back and here's what we're doing. It just kind of keeps vacillating back and forth. So that's really all I can say. It's been difficult.
Yeah, I want to chime in too, Valerie. I think it's, you know, this is some of the stuff that I'm hearing. You know, winter is typically the time when the regular flu hits, right? And while flu shots are not required, unless you work in the healthcare field, right now people are not going to their doctor offices because they're afraid, right? And we're seeing that because kids are not getting their immunizations. There's a real dip in immunizations, which we know. And so then if people aren't going into the doctor and they're not getting their flu shots and the flu season hits, what people are kind of worried about is, you know, a twindemic, right? Where there's COVID and regular influenza happening at the same time. You know, then that's going to put a huge burden on our medical system, because they're going to have a hard time determining what's what. And then you're going to have a bunch of more people sick. And, you know, it just, you know, hopefully it doesn't create some sort of panic. So, you know, we need to move into a place where we're encouraging people to go to the doctor, get their immunizations, plan on getting flu shots, you know, washing your hands, using your masks, you know, all those preventative things. If we don't do those things, we won't be able to get back to school. You know, I sort of feel like if you want to get back to school, you've got to wear a mask like every day, all the time when you leave your house. So like Ed and as saying, it's just back and forth, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's just crazy. But looking ahead, you know, we've got to really be thinking about, you know, what happens normally in the wintertime with flus and cold season coming. So that just is an extra little added complication to be thinking about.
Well, and yeah, and how do you tell if someone has symptoms? Are they COVID symptoms or are they flu symptoms?
Exactly.
Now, I know it's going to be challenging. It's going to be
just as. Any more comments, Mark?
Yeah. So first thing I wanted to say is thank you for such a great and comprehensive presentation. You guys spent a lot of time on that, and I feel like we got a really good coverage of all the parts of the business, as it were. You know, this is like we're a machine that's running along and had a wrench thrown into it, but we kept the machine running the whole time. And I was struck by Ahmad's presentation, and we're still moving along with these construction projects and all that kind of stuff. So that makes me really proud of you guys, and I really appreciate that. A couple of quick questions, I think, is any idea from a teacher perspective, are most of our teachers teaching from home, or are they coming into the classroom? What model are they using kind of most?
So Trustee Miller, I think we have a combination of that. At some sites, we have up to 60% of the teachers coming in, and at some sites we don't. And so it really just depends on that. Some of our teachers are finding that it's comfortable for them to be able to feel like they're going to work and they're using their classrooms and all of that. In terms of hard numbers on the exact amount of teachers and percentages, Ahmad might know more because of the cleaning schedule, but I think at every campus we do have teachers coming on in order to teach.
Yeah, I just was curious.
It just varies. I think at the high schools and middle schools, sometimes we see a higher percentage than the elementaries, but I think that you're right. It's about 40 to 50 at the higher schools, percentage-wise.
And we have to be careful, and it's important for our staff to hear it, not just our parents to hear it, that when we start to bring people back onto campus, we have to be very purposeful in terms of following the safety protocols. In one of the nearby districts, they reopened their district office. There was a gathering in a lunchroom, and everybody had lunch together, and then 14 of them went out on isolation because somebody had COVID. And so we encourage the teachers to teach where they're comfortable. If that means in a classroom, that's wonderful, but we do discourage the use of common spaces when they're there, because we want them to be protected, not because we want to control their activity. But if there were folks getting together in a staff room or having lunch in a friend teacher's classroom, those are the opportunities to spread, if spread were going to occur. It's not going to happen if you're driving in your car and you go into your classroom and you wear a mask when you're not in your car, your classroom, and then you're at home. The opportunity for spread just is not available, and the cleaning comes in behind you to make sure that even if there were something there, it gets taken up. So we just have to be really, really diligent in applying the safety protocols, even as people are coming onto campus. Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. And then another question is really from a student perspective. And so we've gotten some comments on this, in fact, at our last board meeting. I think that is it true that some teachers are using Zoom and some teachers are using Google Meets to do their classrooms? And have we given, to me, that would be kind of a pain in the neck if I had to log into one versus another. Have we given, thought to maybe standardizing on one of those?
So Trustee Miller, on that one, I have observed lessons. I've been in classrooms almost every single day since the school year started. And Zoom is probably the preferred tool that we're using. However, there are advantages to the Google Hangout. When I was watching a lesson today where there was a Google Hangout, students were able to participate and engage in that discussion with each other, and it just had a little different feel to it than a Zoom. So I think that Zoom is probably the most widely used tool, and we realize that it may be somewhat frustrating to have to switch back and forth. But the way that the teacher has structured the classroom and the type of dynamic that is important for the learning that needs to take place, in some ways drives the use of whether or not they're using the Zoom or the
That's very helpful. Thank you. And in fact, at work, we use two different tools as well, so it's not really, I guess, that bad. So my last question is really, so let's say we get the go-ahead to go to in-person learning. How quickly or how long would it take for us to actually open up to do that?
So we have a plan in place. Mm-hmm. So we have a design that we could work towards implementing. And that's structured on the guidance of small cohorts, stable groups that don't intermingle with each other. And really the only place we can do that is in the lower grades, given the numbers. If the numbers change, we may have other opportunities. So I think that, first of all, we'll know when we hit the count of under 100 per 100,000. We'll track that over those 14 days. Obviously, when we get in that space, we start to initiate other conversations. Once we get the okay from the county, which means we're off of the wait list, and the county says we'll start to accept plans, forward-leaning plans. We have in our MOU with the teachers, we've agreed to a 10-day notification. And so there's certain things that we'll have to put into place to make it. It's not going to happen overnight. And I'll just say, as long as I'm here it's not going to happen until I'm confident that we can bring the kids back safely and that the teachers will be safe. So all of those protocols that we have to implement, we will make sure that we can implement it before we flip that switch. We're not going to do it just because people want us to. Frankly, I'd love for us to be back as well. I've said that 100 times. But we're going to do it when it's safe. And that's my position. That's the direction that I've given the executive team. And that's our planning process, is to make sure that we've got those things in line so that we can move towards reopening if and when it's safe to do so.
Well, Dave, you only have to look at the colleges, some of the other high schools across the nation. They open up 2 days later, they're closing.
Well, yeah, but our kindergartners don't go partying on the weekends either. So, I mean, there are some differences, and we want to be reasonable about them. The younger kids, everybody has said, are probably easier. There's mixed data about whether or not they're safer, and everybody's struggling with those reports. But the small, stable cohorts, I can figure out how to do small, stable cohorts, and I think most of us can, right? And I can figure out how to do that in first period in the secondary school. But as the bell rings, the whole thing blows up. And so really, how do you keep kids in groups like that at a secondary school without exposing them to increased risk? So we have a lot more thinking and talking to do with our teachers and our families to figure out how to make that happen. Because again, it's going to go back to that other question. Can we do it in a way that protects the safety of our students and our teachers? Because if the answer to that question is no, it's not going to happen. Right. Until we can answer that question affirmatively. That's the responsibility that we have, and really a level of accountability that we have with all of our families, that we have to be able to look them in the eye and say, yes, this is safe and this is why we can do it. And they trust that if we say no, that there's a reason for that we're not just randomly saying no because of some agenda or something else. It's not about that. It's about the safety of the kids. And I totally understand the frustration of parents who are dealing and managing with so many things on their plate. Our teachers are doing the same thing because they're in this community and they have kids in our schools. And so nobody's out there by themselves. I guess maybe me. I don't have kids in our schools. And so I guess I'm the lucky one. I don't know. But I take the responsibility to own the safety of every one of those kids as though they were mine. And I know that they're not. But that's the way I approach this work. And I'm not going to do this work if I can't approach it that way.
Okay, Dr. Woodward? Dr. Woodward?
Yes.
I want to briefly, because it's late now. I've heard some chatter about PSATs and everything like that. What's the latest on that?
So thank you, President Maher. We've actually have been looking into that. We've been meeting several times a week in order to investigate our options with that. The PSAT, they have added an additional date in January. So that is good news for our students. We were hopeful that might be able to be rolled out for our students. We do need to ensure that we've learned more about the requirements and the criteria, which in fact are more limiting than we originally thought to administer that test, as well as the SAT test. We also have to keep in mind that for many of our colleges, the SAT is, and even the PSAT in some situations, but the SAT actually is not being heavily weighted or even used. And so we've been looking in, right now Winter Jones is contacting colleges, including our RUIs, in order to confirm what the impact would be to our students if they weren't able to take the SAT. And if they're going to allow for any flexibility with their criteria, because we are in a pandemic. And so at the same time, there's limited flexibility with the College Board allowing us to do any kind of remote testing, but we are looking into alternative plans, especially for students who are interested in taking the National Merit Test and qualifying for that. There are some other alternatives that might be available to students in the absence of a test. that we would be able to administer.
So the PSAT could possibly be in January?
It does look like they have a later January date that was just placed on the website. As I think yesterday's the first day it came to our attention.
What's the location, do you know? Or?
That would depend.
Would it be in our district? Or?
Yeah. So what they do for the PSAT is that they offer up the dates, and we're limited to those dates. And then if we choose to offer it as part of a school day or even on a Saturday and be the host to that, then we have to do it within their time frame and on those days only.
And how many students would approximately take that test, do you think?
So in years past, we've had about 1,100 students total that have taken we're looking at potentially having about that many if we were to do just juniors, and they would be the ones that would be the most essential to test.
Some type of, oh my goodness.
And that's for the PSAT.
Logistics would just be.
And that's,
Janelle, can you?
That's in groups of 14.
Right, that's crazy. It'll take forever. Janelle, can you say something about the SAT? And there is kind of a general panic of, I know you probably don't know the answer yet, but what are we going to do about communicating this out? But there's a little bit of a panic of, oh no, my kid's not going to get into college because they can't take the SAT.
Sure. So I will be providing some updates to the community and the bulletin to the board in the upcoming weeks, probably not this Sunday, because we are still in the process of gathering the information. We know that for our Cal States, we're confirming with our colleges as to how important these tests are. For the CSUs and the Cal State, the CSUs and our UCs, the SAT is not necessarily very important anymore. It's for those students who want to go to Boise State or any of those others that it's still one of those things that they need to look at. However, it does depend. Even for the universities that I mentioned, there are some exceptions based upon what the students would be majoring in. So we are looking at that. We have, like I said, we've been meeting this morning about it, actually twice. And so we're investigating this to see what the options are for our students. But certainly within our country, there's going to be a need for increased flexibility, because it's not for lack of wanting to support our students by offering these tests. It's because if we can't do so safely, it could potentially reduce their chance of going to college because of a health risk. So,
I don't actually think it's going to reduce their chances of going to college. I think this is going to end up being an artifact, because people will realize, you know what? We don't need to pay College Board to take these tests. So many more schools are moving to test optional to begin with. It was already a movement for a variety of reasons, some of which have to do with systemic racism and cultural appropriateness of these tests. But what parents are going to find is that they don't have to actually pay for these tests and put their students through this process, and they can still go to college. And so I think if the College Board doesn't decide to somehow become more flexible about the way we're going to process these, they're going to unflex themselves right out of this revenue stream.
That's right. That is right. Okay, is there any more questions? We've spent a lot of time on this. Certainly, thank you for the exhaustive report. Excellent report. Let's move on to 12.3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Should we take a break?
I did have one really quick question that got back to Ahmad about the facilities and construction. Sorry. We had given direction before to come back to us to talk about the new elementary school, and I was wondering when we might be having that conversation. Is that coming up in a September board meeting, or what are we looking at?
Yes, we are still working on that report. And the direction was that before we submit the plans to DSA, we would bring back those options. So we're probably looking at an early October board meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. And Jamie's asked for a quick break. Would you like to have that? Yes? No?
You guys don't want a break, really?
Well, we've got a bunch of quick items.
Yeah, we don't have much.
You want to just go? Power?
Power through it.
Okay. 12.3, approve the layoff of a classified employee for reduction. Julio.
Yes, good evening again. Due to the lack of work or lack of funds, the governing board of Pleasanton Unified School District hereby finds that it is in the best interest of the district that as of September 10th, 2020, to lay off a classified employee ID number 7033 from the business division, where the employee held the position of graphics specialist. The employee declined to take a position offered in lieu of the layoff. Prior to this board meeting, a few board meetings ago, the board did take action to lay off 4 employees. All 4 were offered a position in a vacant spot. All accepted the position except for this employee. That said, we are recommending that this employee be laid off officially. This employee will retain education rights that will place the employee in a 39-month rehire should this position reopen sometime within the 39-month period. The recommendation from staff is that the board approve this last step in the layoff process.
Comments, questions?
I'll move approval.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay. Trustee Arkin.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Larson.
Aye.
Trustee Lee.
Aye.
And Trustee Maher, aye. Carries. Okay, 12.4, report discussion and possible action to approve assignment options under Ed Code 44258.2. Julio.
Thank you. Again, this is an option, an Ed Code option that was discussed earlier today. Education Code 44258.2 allows the holder of a valid California teaching credential, in this case a math credential, to teach any subject for which requirements have been met by resolution of the governing board and with the consent of the teacher, which is the attachment A, where the teacher is consenting to teach this communications class. Mark Axon has a Bachelor of Science degree in public communications with a major in broadcast journalism. This supports his ability to successfully teach the communication class. So in this educational option, this teacher has a valid credential, is willing to also teach a communications class, and has a bachelor's to be able to allow him to do so. But it isn't necessary to have the Board of Education or trustees to approve the option in order for this teacher to teach this class.
Okay. Questions, comments? Okay. Motion?
I'll move approval of 12.4.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Trustee Arkin?
Aye.
Trustee Lee?
Aye.
Trustee Larson?
Aye.
Trustee Miller?
Aye.
And Trustee Maher, aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
12.5, report and discussion, California School Board Association call for nominations for directors at large, Asian Pacific Islander and Hispanic. Dr. Hagen.
Thank you, President Maher. So this item is to put before the board the opportunity to nominate a member for that position of director at large for Asian Pacific Islander and Hispanic. It's not required that you do, but this is your opportunity to put a nomination forward if you so desire.
Comments, questions?
Yes, I would like to nominate Jamie Yee for Director at Large, Asian Pacific Islander and Hispanic.
Yes, I would like to be nominated. So it'd be awesome if you guys would vote to nominate me.
I'll second it. Any comments, questions? Okay. We had a second. So Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Larson?
Aye.
Trustee Yee?
Aye.
Trustee Arkin?
Aye.
Trustee Maher, aye. Okay, Jamie, you are so nominated.
Yep. And in the past, it's been a very competitive process. So we'll see.
Well, good luck with that. In the packet is the instructions for your you and your nominator to proceed.
I saw that.
We'll leave that with you from this point forward. Thank you.
No, you have to do a letter.
I haven't been asked appropriately yet, but I'll.
Okay. I'll make my formal request to you.
Oh, goodness.
Okay. 12.6, report discussion and possible action to approve resolution 2020-2021.04, use of Pleasanton Unified School District's facilities by the Alameda County Registrar of Voters as a polling places for upcoming general election. Dr. Hagelin.
President Maher, this item is a resolution that would grant authority to the business department to approve civic center requests by the Registrar of Voters for Alameda County to use a few of our facilities to support in-person balloting that takes place during the week of the election.
Okay. I don't think we have to read it. Can we just go through it? Vote?
It's a resolution. So I'll move approval of the polling place resolution.
Okay, second? Second. Okay. Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Harkin?
Aye.
Trustee Larson?
Aye.
Trustee Yee?
Aye.
Trustee Maher? Aye. So it carries. Motion carries. Okay. And number 13, board reports and requests. And I have one request. At our next board meeting on September 10th, I would like a status report and discussion about our registration forms and how we gather information, and specifically about our Asian parents. We have addressed this before, but I know we now have some lawyers looking into it. And I have an upcoming meeting with Congressman Eric Swalwell, along with parents, to discuss this. I've spoken with his aide specifically Mallory, and a meeting is going to be scheduled within the next week or so to discuss what, if anything, the federal government has to say about it. And so I'd like to have a report back at next board meeting and discuss it as a board. Anybody else have some other items? Can you hear me?
Yes, everybody. I think everybody heard you.
Oh, no.
Silence was the answer to the question.
Okay, so hearing none. Okay. Upcoming board meetings Thursday, September 10th. Have a good weekend. Stay healthy. And this meeting is adjourned at...
So we all say good night, Roseanne.
Oh, that's
Roseanne.
Oh my God.
Good night.
Roseanne.
We love you, Roseanne.
Oh, I love you guys too.
Bye, Roseanne.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Thanks, Lanita.